Things do not happen in isolation or in a vacuum chamber. Our businesses and our organizations do not operate in a cave all by themselves. Everything we do is part of this larger system that we talked about in context. And the American economy and doing business in the American economy takes place in a context. And American leaders are facing this context. And I'm going to discuss that for a little bit. I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the American economy that business leaders, organizational leaders, educators are facing. Now let's talk about the good for a second. We have over 2 million farms, over 930 million acres in production, and we can feed ourselves and export over $70 billion worth of food a year. We also import $6 billion worth. So we net $64 billion in international trade in food. Doesn't mean we're doing it correctly, that we couldn't do better, but that's pretty good. We have a labor force of over 155 million people between 16 and 65 who want to work. We have millions who are not working but want to. But we have 125,000 public schools educating over 48 to 50 million students a year. We have 3 million teachers. 85% of our adults who graduated from high school. We have an educated workforce. 28% of our nation has a bachelor's degree. We have had a tradition of excellent higher education. We have over 4 million miles of roads connecting the nation, one town, one city to another. 4 million miles. We have 3 million miles of rural roads connecting our cities and towns. We are also a nation of entrepreneurs. We have people who will take a chance. Right? We have almost 6 million attempts at a new business every year across this country. Almost 6 million a year. Now 70% of those new businesses will fail. They will not be open in 10 years. But 30% of them will. These are people who are going out there and starting out and trying it on their own and making it work. And in this country, we're a nation that combines democracy and capitalism and diversity with freedom, and we allow creativity, we allow new ideas. In spite of political, bureaucratic chatter, we do not impede economic growth with endless bureaucracy in this country. That's just mostly political rhetoric. If you have a good idea, and you are a good person, and you have good people behind it, you can find money for your project, and the government will help you get it started. Nobody's going to stop you. If it's a good project, and if it's a good idea and solid, and people will put money with you, you're on the way. So use your mind and surround yourself with good people. You'll be surprised what you can accomplish. Now that's the good part of the American economy. Now there's some bad news. There's a storm headed our way. Remember the movie The Perfect Storm? There's a storm that faces American business organizations. One of them is the aging workforce. Now we're not alone in the world. The whole world's getting older. But I'm talking about the United States. We are getting older. In 2026, there will be 100 million Americans over 65. Now there's just 200, what is it, 280, 300 million of us? 300 million of us. Well, in 2026, it's going to be 100 million of us over 65. In 2010, there were 40 million. In 2020, there will be 54 million. That's a lot. And give you an example how that impacts us. In the year 2004, 53% of the American federal government workforce of 1.8 million people became eligible to retire in 1 year. Not all of them did, but they could have. We have a gap of 167 million jobs requiring talented people, but we only got 157 million people to fill them, and they're not all skilled in the area where we need them. We have something like a $17 to $40 million trained, skilled employee gap. We have educational problems in this country, and they're severe. We have 45 million Americans who read below the 8th grade level. 50% of our folks can't fill out a job application correctly. 43% of our community college students require remedial work. U.S., among the 29 countries in the developed world, we rank 29 countries in the developed world. We're 24th in math, 15th in reading, 19th in science. That's an educational problem. Of the people who go into teaching after their first year, only 50% will still be doing it in 5 years. They don't like the low pay, the lack of discipline, and the poor working conditions. State public support of public universities has gone down every year for 10 straight years. So the universities to stay open raise tuition. Politicians will say, we don't raise your taxes. Well, what is a tuition charge and a fee charge on a middle-class person who wants to send their kids to college? An old man who said to me, a guy who's 40, that's not old, I'm 70. 40-year-old man said to me, I've been helping pay for the university system ever since I got a job, and now that my kids are ready to go, they can't afford to go. $130 million increase in tuition in the state of Wisconsin in 1 year across the public universities is a $130 million tax increase. This hurts our educational ability in this country. As a result, many corporations are starting their own universities, starting their own educational systems, because the public university system can't handle it, not being funded. We have environmental problems that are severe. Over 40% of our lakes, rivers, and streams are unsafe for swimming. You can't get in them. When I was a boy, I used to fish in a little creek called Friends Creek down in central Illinois where I was raised. And I used to catch big buckets full of catfish and bring them home, fillet them out. We'd have catfish. Now there's signs anywhere, do not eat the fish. They're poisoned with agricultural runoff, herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers. The land where I grew up, farmland, you used to be able to go out and pick up that black dirt and break it apart and find worms and bugs and insects in there. It was alive. You go to the same place now, pick up that dirt, it'll crumble in your hand and it will burn it from the chemicals that are in it. And the air that blows across America's heartland causes cancer. The Center for Communicable Disease in Atlanta will back me up. We have infrastructure problems. The people in our country that are working manufacturing and need transportation, they know that 1/3 of our 4 million miles are in substandard condition. They know that 150,000 bridges of our 600,000 are about to fail. They need significant repairs. We're aware of the bridge that collapsed in Minneapolis and killed people. There's a bridge down in a little town where my farm is, Carthage, Tennessee, that's closed. And it goes into town. So to get into town now, you got to go clear out around, come back in the other side. And it's hurt the business in that little town. Because the people who live south can't get it, so they go somewhere else. We have 3,300 dams in this country and 1,300 of them, if they failed, would endanger human lives. Third, every year in this country, we spend over $50 billion to clean up spilled sewage from our city's sewer systems because they're old, out of date, and unsafe. We haven't built a new refinery in this country for 36 years. The cost just to repair our infrastructure is $1.75 trillion. I didn't say improve it. I didn't say build the new stuff we need, just to repair the old. We always cut maintenance. And this is the context that American business is looking at. Are we going to fix these things? We have to. How are we going to pay for them? Somebody's got to pay for them. Energy. We are awash with natural gas. And we are developing it well and fast, and that's a good thing. Oil. 70% of the world's oil reserves are located in a football-shaped ellipse between northern Russia and Saudi Arabia. That's not exactly the most friendly place in the world for the United States. 70% of the oil over there. But we've got 3.65 billion barrels of oil in Montana and North Dakota that we could develop. We don't need that gas line to come down from Canada to the Gulf that everybody's arguing about. We can get that oil and gas out of the northern part of the United States, put the refinery there on an old abandoned Air Force base. And American business and organizations see these problems, and they see the government not solving them. And frankly, they see the oil companies not building any new refineries either. Why not? Because supply is kept low and price can go up. It's not a pretty picture. And what about health? Labor loses over 475 million work days a year due to sickness. $20 billion a year due to sickness and people not showing up. We don't have a health care system in this country. None. We have a system that's expensive to take care of the unhealthy. We don't have a system to take care of health. By 2025, we expect to have 40 million people needing medical help because of diabetes. 75% of our population is obese. 27% of our healthcare costs is due to obesity. American people eat over 150 pounds of sugar a year per person. That's facing the American business organization. Much of our workforce is obese, diabetic, sick, or hungover. As a nation, we do next to nothing in healthcare promotion and prevention. Beyond childhood immunization and pharmaceuticals, we don't do much of anything. We are tied to fast food, high fructose corn sugar, booze, and the couch. American industry looks at that, and it's a concern. It's part of the context in which they have to operate. And these problems need to be solved. Alzheimer's is sitting there like a time bomb. The cost of dementia and Alzheimer's will reach $200 billion in 2020. You know, 50% of the people who are 85 or over have Alzheimer's. Every other one. And we're all starting to live to be 85. And the cost to families and the nation is going to be horrendous. And this is part of the context that we're facing. Part of the perfect storm. We also have a culture of crime. Now, crime rate's been going down for the last few years, and that's a good thing. Do you know why it's going down? Now, my liberal progressive friends don't like to hear this, but when you lock up people who commit crimes, they can't commit crimes. And we have an extremely high percent of our male population behind bars. And the more you put back there, the less crimes that are committed. Now, it is an expensive thing. Now, could we do crime prevention? Yes, we could. If we taught these young men to read and write and understand in preschool and the elementary school and in middle school, they won't be high school dropouts and become criminals. I have a daughter with a tremendous amount of brain damage from a childhood disease. Severely learning disabled. She cannot hear, she cannot talk. She's partially paralyzed. But we taught her to read. The school district taught her to read. Now, she was 21 before she graduated from high school, but she learned to read. And if we can teach Kim to read, we can teach young boys who have none of those problems to read. We can fight the criminal problem. But if you commit the crime, you're going to do the time. So where is this culture of crime coming from? 1,400,000 violent crimes a year. 1 million stolen automobiles a year. The cost of these crimes in the loss of property, loss of human life, arrest, court, conviction, put him in prison, is $1 trillion a year. And the cause is evidence of our lack of concern for others and our national emphasis on self-gratification, even at the cost of human suffering. We got to please ourselves, even if it hurts someone else. Now that's ugly. And that's part of what we face. Right? The American people are in debt up to their scalp. $1 trillion in debt. How are they going to buy much else? And the American business organizations is looking at that. It's not just the President of the United States that they don't trust. It's not just the Congress they don't trust. Businessmen are smart. If they thought that market was hot out there to sell things, they'd manufacture them and sell them. But the American people are so far in debt, they've become slaves to it. And that consumption is not going to pick up. It'll pick up some, but not much. And frankly, in my opinion, it shouldn't. Why should we be buying all that junk? We should be investing in energy and education and health and transportation. And American business leaders know that. They know that we don't need to be selling them all this stuff, all these toys that go away. They know that we must have energy. They know that. We could put, what if we put solar collectors on the roof of every school building in the country? They all got flat roofs. We could do that. They'd take care of their electricity and had enough to sell. We got 3 million miles of road. What if we put solar collectors down the meridian in between them? And the power lines, those transmission lines, ran down to what used to be a gas station, and now it's a place where you swap out your batteries. We could do that. 76% of all the electrical energy in the country is produced at coal-fired plants. And they're the single largest contributor to global warming. We have got to continue building up our natural gas, and we are. The business knows that. We do need a high-speed rail system across this country. Uses a lot less energy and creates a lot less pollution. High-speed magnetic levitation, it's called. These trains actually come up off the tracks and move through magnetic power at high speeds. They're used in Japan, Germany, Russia. Oh, but we don't do it here because we got to keep pumping diesel fuel and oil into trucks. We've got to go green. We've got to fix our infrastructure. The American business community knows that. We've got to improve our education. They know that. They face that. They read it, they study it, they see it. Why aren't they doing something about it? Maybe they're not the leaders they think they are. Maybe they buy into political rhetoric that says no more taxes. Well, Rome crumbled. Now, this isn't just I'm trying to scare you speech. I got facts to back all this up. We, as American business leaders, you as American business leaders, have got to start investing in American education. You have got to start investing in a healthcare system that takes care of health. You've got to start investing in the infrastructure and the transportation systems of this country. Now, if you go through the government to get it done, you can do that. If you want to work with the states, and you can do that. But you're the leadership of this country. You got to do it. I'm going to give a series of discussion on a lot of things that we need to do, but these are the most important. I am reminded of the Pogo cartoon. That said, we have met the enemy. They are us.